Ravi had been away for 3 weeks on a business trip. He worked long hours in another city and had been looking forward to returning home. His house was small but comfortable, tucked into a quiet neighborhood managed by a strict homeowners association. The streets were clean, the lawns were neatly trimmed, and the houses all looked similar. On the surface, it seemed like the perfect place to live. However, there was always one person who made life in the neighborhood tense. That person was Karen, the HOA president. Karen was a woman in her 40s who took her responsibilities very seriously. Some called her the neighborhood watch, but Ravi and many others simply thought of her as overbearing. She would complain if a flower grew too high, a leaf fell on the sidewalk, or a car was parked 5 inches outside the line. Many neighbors avoided her because she could turn any minor issue into a formal complaint. Ravi did his best to stay out of trouble. He followed every rule and kept his yard in perfect condition. He thought of Karen as a necessary challenge to survive, someone who had to be tolerated if one wanted to live peacefully. Yet he had never imagined that she could create a problem for him even when he was away. The day Ravi returned home, he did not expect anything unusual. His flight had been moved up, and instead of landing late at night, he arrived in the afternoon. The neighborhood looked exactly as he remembered it. The sun shone brightly and the streets were calm. Birds sang from the trees lining the road, and a gentle breeze carried the smell of freshly cut grass. Ravi felt relief and happiness as he walked toward his house. As he reached the driveway, something immediately caught his attention. The curtains in his living room were wide open, even though he always closed them before leaving. A faint light flickered inside the house, suggesting someone was already home. Ravi paused and looked around carefully. He saw a small bicycle leaning against his porch. It was not the kind of bicycle he had. This one was smaller, the type a teenager would ride. Near the bicycle were a pair of shoes, also much smaller than his size. His neatly kept yard suddenly looked cluttered, as if someone had moved in without permission. Ravi's heart began to beat faster. He had always trusted his neighbors, but this scene felt wrong. He reached for his keys and unlocked the door cautiously. The moment he stepped inside, a blast of music greeted him. The sound was loud, and Ravi could hear laughter coming from the living room. He froze. This was his home, yet it no longer felt like it. He walked further inside, keeping his voice calm but firm. "Hello, is anyone there?" A boy, around 16 years old, jumped from the couch, nearly dropping a video game controller in his hands. The boy's eyes widened and he looked shocked. He had been deeply focused on the screen and had not noticed Ravi enter. Empty soda cans and snack wrappers were scattered across the coffee table. The living room furniture, which Ravi kept tidy, was now surrounded by small piles of clothes and books. The scene looked chaotic. "Who are you?" Ravi demanded, his voice steady but with a sharp edge. "Why are you in my house?" The boy swallowed nervously. I can explain," he stammered, his hands shaking slightly. Before Ravi could reply, a loud knock echoed from the front door. Ravi turned, and there she was. Karen, the HOA president, stood in the doorway holding her phone tightly. Her eyes were wide with alarm and her cheeks were flushed. She pointed at Ravi with her free hand, her voice rising. "Ravi, you are not supposed to be here." "I called the police," she shouted. Ravi stared at her in disbelief. "You called the police? For what reason?" Karen's voice grew louder. "You broke into this house. You are not the owner. You should not be here." The boy on the couch looked terrified. He did not move or speak. Ravi realized that Karen's son, perhaps the same boy sitting in the living room, was the reason for her panic. The situation began to make sense, but Ravi's mind raced. He had just returned to his own home, and now the HOA president was accusing him of being an intruder. He could feel his patience starting to wear thin, but he held his composure. Ravi turned back to the boy. "Listen carefully. This is my house. I live here. Who are you, and why are you using my things?" The boy finally spoke, his voice trembling. I thought... I was told I could stay here while you were gone. Mom said it would be okay." Ravi's eyes narrowed. "Your mom, Karen? She told you to stay in my house without asking me?" The boy nodded, avoiding Ravi's gaze. "I didn't want to cause trouble. I thought it was fine. Mom said you would be away for weeks." Ravi felt a mix of anger and disbelief. "She cannot make decisions about my house. This is my property. Nobody can stay here without my permission." Karen's voice interrupted again, this time defensive. "Ravi, I didn't know it would be a problem. I thought it would be helpful. My son needed a place to stay for a few days, and I thought your house was empty. I only wanted to prevent trouble." Ravi took a deep breath. He could see that Karen genuinely believed she was helping, but the situation had escalated far beyond a simple misunderstanding. His furniture had been moved, food had been eaten, and his private space had been invaded. He knew he needed to handle this carefully to avoid further conflict. "Karen, you should have asked me first," Ravi said firmly. "Even if your son needed a place, you cannot let someone live in my home without my approval. This is a serious matter." Karen's face flushed further. I didn't want to bother you. I thought it would be okay." Ravi looked at the boy again. "You need to pack your things and leave immediately. This is not a hotel. You cannot just live here as if it belongs to you." The boy nodded silently, his hands gripping the controller nervously. Ravi led him to the door and gestured for him to take his bicycle and shoes. Karen tried to argue, but Ravi maintained a calm and firm tone. Eventually, she realized there was no room for debate. The boy gathered his things and left quietly, his head down. Once the house was empty again, Ravi closed the door and took a deep breath. He felt a mix of relief and frustration. Relief because his home was finally his own again, and frustration because of the unnecessary stress caused by Karen's misunderstanding. Ravi knew this incident would likely cause more tension with Karen. She had always believed she had the authority to enforce rules and make decisions for everyone, but this had crossed a clear boundary. He decided that he needed to approach the situation carefully. A calm conversation about boundaries might prevent future incidents. As Ravi sat on his couch and surveyed the living room, he began picking up the scattered items. The music was off, the empty cans were in the trash, and slowly his home started feeling like his again. Yet, he could not shake the image of Karen's panicked face or the boy sitting as if the house belonged to him. This experience had shaken Ravi, and he realized that even in a quiet neighborhood, surprises could happen at any time. Ravi also knew that the next few days would be crucial. He needed to communicate with Karen and ensure that his home would never be treated like a temporary lodging without his consent. At the same time, he wanted to be fair and understanding toward the boy, who clearly had not intended any harm. That afternoon, Ravi stood at his window, looking out at the street. Children rode bicycles, neighbors mowed lawns, and life went on as usual. Yet in his mind, he kept replaying the events. The calm neighborhood he loved had suddenly felt unpredictable. The lesson was clear. Even the smallest misunderstandings could spiral into big problems if people acted without thinking. Ravi smiled slightly. He knew he would handle this with patience and intelligence. Tomorrow he would speak with Karen and set clear rules. For now, he was just happy to be home. He could finally relax, knowing that his house belonged to him once more. The next morning, Ravi woke up early, feeling the weight of yesterday's chaos still lingering in his mind. He brewed a cup of tea and sat on his porch thinking about the events. He knew he could not ignore what had happened. Karen had crossed a boundary, and her son had treated his house like it belonged to him. Ravi felt a mix of frustration and determination. He wanted to handle the matter without causing a neighborhood dispute, but he also wanted to set a clear example. After finishing his tea, Ravi went inside to prepare for the conversation. He made a list of points he wanted to address. First, Karen had allowed her son to live in his house without permission. Second, her actions had caused unnecessary panic and confusion. Third, he wanted assurance that something like this would never happen again. At around 10 in the morning, Ravi walked over to Karen's house. The neighborhood was quiet, and he noticed that a few neighbors were outside watering their gardens. He nodded politely at them, but kept his focus on Karen's front door. He rang the bell, and after a few seconds, Karen appeared, her expression cautious and nervous. "Ravi," she said quickly, trying to smile. "Good morning. I hope you're feeling better after yesterday." Ravi returned her greeting politely but without emotion. "Good morning, Karen. I came by to discuss what happened yesterday. We need to clarify a few things about boundaries and respect." Karen's smile faded. "I understand. I really did not mean for anything bad to happen. I thought I was helping my son." Ravi nodded. "I understand your intention, but the reality is different. Your son was living in my house as if it were his own. He used my things, ate my food, and left the house in disorder. I want to know why you thought this was acceptable." Karen sighed and gestured for Ravi to come inside. He stepped into her living room, which was tidy and well organized. Karen offered him a chair and they both sat down. "It's complicated," Karen began. "My son Daniel has been struggling lately. He had some disagreements at school, and I wanted him to have a safe place to stay for a while. I did not think it would be a problem. I assumed your house was empty, and I wanted to prevent him from feeling alone." Ravi listened carefully. "I understand your concern for Daniel, but that does not give you the right to use someone else's property without permission. Even if your intentions were good, the action was wrong. Imagine if I had allowed someone into your home without asking. You would not accept it." Karen looked down at her hands, ashamed. "You are right. I should have asked first. I thought it would be fine because I knew you were away, and I did not want to bother you with the request." Ravi continued calmly. "Karen, intention matters, but so does respect for property. I am not angry at Daniel because he did not know better. He is young and trusted you. However, you as an adult should have made sure this was okay. This cannot happen again. I need your assurance that neither you nor Daniel will enter my house without my permission in the future." Karen nodded quickly. "I promise, Ravi, this will never happen again. I should have contacted you first, and I apologize sincerely for the trouble." Ravi appreciated her honesty, but he also wanted to make sure there were no misunderstandings. "Good. I also want to explain to Daniel what respect and boundaries mean. He needs to understand that a house is not a place to stay without permission, no matter how familiar or empty it looks. Perhaps we can meet later and talk." Karen hesitated but then agreed. "Yes, you are right. I will speak to him and let him know. He needs to learn this lesson. I should not have put him in this position." Ravi felt a small sense of relief. The confrontation was difficult, but he had handled it without yelling or escalating the conflict. He had set boundaries clearly, and Karen had acknowledged her mistake. He stood up to leave, hoping that the rest of the day would be calm. Just as he reached the door, Karen called out, "Ravi, wait. I want you to know that I am grateful for your patience. I realize I acted too quickly yesterday. I just wanted to protect my son and I went about it the wrong way." Ravi nodded. "Thank you, Karen. I hope this will be a learning moment for both of you. Let's move forward with respect and understanding. That way the neighborhood can remain peaceful for everyone." After leaving Karen's house, Ravi walked back home and noticed that the streets felt different. There was a sense of normalcy returning. Children played on the sidewalks, neighbors tended their gardens, and the sun shone brightly. Yet Ravi remained aware that even quiet neighborhoods could have unexpected surprises. Later that afternoon, Ravi heard a knock on his door. He opened it to find Daniel standing nervously on the porch. The boy looked smaller than his age, and his eyes held both curiosity and worry. "Hello, Daniel," Ravi said kindly. "I think we should talk for a few minutes." Daniel nodded and stepped inside. He looked around the living room, seeing the space as it normally was, organized and tidy. He shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what to say. Ravi spoke gently. "Daniel, I want you to understand something important. A house is a private place. Even if it seems empty, it belongs to someone. You cannot use it as if it is yours without asking. Do you understand?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. I didn't know it would be wrong. Mom told me it was okay and I trusted her." Ravi smiled slightly, trying to ease the boy's tension. "I understand. It's not your fault. You trusted your mother, and that is natural. But now you know how important it is to ask permission and respect someone else's space. Do you promise to remember that?" Daniel nodded again, more confidently this time. "Yes, I promise. I will never do it again." Ravi felt satisfied. "Good, I appreciate your honesty. That is an important part of learning. Everyone makes mistakes, but the key is to understand them and do better next time." They spent a few more minutes talking about respect, trust, and boundaries. Ravi could see that Daniel was thoughtful and willing to learn. By the end of the conversation, Daniel smiled, relieved that Ravi was not angry with him. He thanked Ravi and left the house with a clearer understanding of responsibility. After Daniel left, Ravi felt a sense of accomplishment. The situation had been stressful, but he had handled it calmly and fairly. He realized that communication and patience could resolve conflicts that initially seemed impossible. Later that evening, Karen came over with a small tray of cookies as an apology gesture. "Ravi, I wanted to show that I truly regret yesterday's incident. I hope this can be a fresh start," she said. Ravi accepted the cookies with a nod. "Thank you, Karen. I appreciate the gesture. Let's make sure the neighborhood stays peaceful and respectful from now on." Karen smiled, relieved. Yes, Ravi, I will make sure Daniel understands completely. This will not happen again. Ravi looked around his home, feeling the calm return. His furniture was in order. His home was his own again, and the lesson had been learned by everyone involved. The chaos of yesterday seemed like a distant memory, replaced by understanding, patience, and respect. As the sun set, Ravi sat on his porch, sipping a cup of tea. The neighborhood was quiet, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of flowers from nearby gardens. Ravi reflected on the events and realized that even though unexpected problems could arise, calm thinking and communication could turn any situation around. He felt at peace knowing that his home, his space, and his boundaries were now respected. Ravi smiled to himself. Life in the neighborhood might continue to have surprises, but he now had the experience and patience to handle them. For the first time in weeks, he truly felt at home again. The next morning, Ravi woke to the sound of birds chirping outside his window. For the first time since the incident with Karen and her son, the house felt peaceful. Yet, as he walked through the living room, his mind replayed the previous days. The chaos had been stressful, but it had also taught him something valuable. Patience and clear communication could solve problems that seemed impossible. He stepped outside to check the mailbox and noticed a few neighbors walking their dogs. One neighbor, Mrs. Patel, waved at him cheerfully. Ravi waved back, smiling. The neighborhood was quiet and pleasant, but he had learned that appearances could be deceiving. Sometimes even the most serene places could hide unexpected tension. Ravi began to tidy up the front yard, trimming a few bushes and sweeping the walkway. As he worked, he noticed a small group of neighbors standing across the street, talking in low voices and glancing in his direction. He realized that word of the incident must have spread. Karen was well known in the neighborhood, and anything involving her often attracted attention. He continued his work, trying to ignore the whispers. But by mid-morning, a knock came at his door. Ravi opened it to find Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, an elderly couple who lived 2 houses down. They looked concerned but friendly. "Good morning, Ravi," Mr. Johnson said. "We heard about the situation with Karen and her son. Are you all right?" Ravi nodded. "Thank you for asking. I'm fine. The situation has been resolved. Karen and her son understand the boundaries now," Mrs. Johnson added. "We just wanted to make sure. It sounded very stressful, and we know how much you value your home and peace." Ravi appreciated their concern. "It was a bit stressful, yes, but it also gave me a chance to set clear rules and help Daniel understand respect and responsibility. In the end, it was a learning moment for everyone." The Johnsons smiled. "That is good to hear. We hope the neighborhood will stay calm now." Ravi nodded. "Yes, I think so." After they left, Ravi went back to the yard. He began to notice small details he had missed the day before. The grass near the fence had grown slightly uneven, a few leaves were scattered on the walkway, and some garden tools were not in their usual place. These minor signs reminded him that life went on, and even small disruptions could leave traces. Around noon, Ravi decided to take a walk through the neighborhood to clear his mind. As he strolled along the streets, he noticed other neighbors looking at him curiously. Some waved politely, while others whispered to each other before glancing his way. He understood that the incident with Karen and her son had become a topic of discussion, and people were forming their own opinions. As he walked, Ravi spotted Daniel riding his bicycle down the street. The boy waved shyly when he saw Ravi. Ravi waved back, nodding. It was clear that Daniel had taken the conversation seriously. He rode past quietly, not lingering or causing any trouble. Ravi felt a small sense of relief. The boy had learned his lesson and was showing respect. Later in the afternoon, Ravi returned home and checked his mailbox. There was a letter from the HOA. He opened it carefully and found a note from Karen. She wrote about her regret for the recent events and promised that she and Daniel would respect his home in the future. Ravi felt satisfied reading the letter. It confirmed what they had discussed in person, and it showed that Karen had genuinely reflected on the situation. Despite the peace at home, Ravi could not shake a feeling that not everyone in the neighborhood had heard the story correctly. Rumors and whispers could easily change the way people saw him or Karen. He decided it was best to focus on his own home and not worry too much about gossip. Maintaining calm and respect was more important than controlling everyone's opinions. That evening, Ravi sat on his porch with a cup of tea. He watched as the sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow over the houses. Children played on the sidewalks and neighbors tended to their gardens. Life seemed to return to normal, but Ravi knew that normal was fragile. The incident with Karen and her son had reminded him that even quiet neighborhoods could experience unexpected problems. While sipping his tea, Ravi heard a soft knock at the front door. He opened it to find his neighbor, Annika, holding a small plate of cookies. "Hi, Ravi," she said warmly. "I just wanted to check on you and see if you're okay. We heard about what happened and we thought you might like a little snack." Ravi smiled. "Thank you, Annika. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. I'm fine and everything is settled." Annika nodded. "It's good to hear that. It's always better when neighbors support each other." Ravi felt grateful for the kindness. It reminded him that while some people could create tension, others were thoughtful and caring. Community was about balance, understanding, and helping one another when needed. After Annika left, Ravi decided to make a list of tasks to restore his home fully. He wanted to clean the living room thoroughly, organize the kitchen, and ensure that every corner of his house reflected his care and order. This act of restoring his space gave him a sense of control and comfort. As he worked, Ravi thought about the lessons from the incident. Communication and patience had been key. By speaking calmly and clearly with Karen, he had avoided unnecessary conflict. By taking time to explain boundaries to Daniel, he had helped a young person understand respect and responsibility. These actions had turned a potentially tense situation into a positive learning experience. That night, Ravi sat at his desk and wrote in his journal. He recorded the events of the past few days, including his thoughts on boundaries, respect, and neighborhood relationships. Writing allowed him to process his feelings and reflect on the importance of calm action. While writing, Ravi realized that life in the neighborhood would always have challenges. People had different perspectives, intentions, and ways of handling problems. Some might overstep boundaries unintentionally, and others might gossip or misunderstand situations. Yet, by maintaining patience, communication, and respect, he could navigate these challenges without losing peace of mind. Ravi closed his journal and leaned back in his chair. He felt a sense of satisfaction and calm. The house was his again. The boundaries were respected and the neighborhood had returned to its quiet rhythm. He knew that tomorrow might bring small surprises, but he was ready to handle them. His patience and clear thinking had proven effective, and he felt confident in his ability to maintain both his home and his peace. As Ravi prepared for bed, he reflected on the incident with Karen and her son. It had been stressful, but it had also been a learning opportunity. He had learned the importance of addressing problems directly and calmly, of teaching lessons to young people with patience, and of maintaining clear communication with neighbors. Most importantly, he had reinforced the respect for his own home and boundaries. With these thoughts, Ravi turned off the lights and climbed into bed. The house was quiet, safe, and peaceful once more. He knew that the future might hold new challenges, but he felt ready. The lessons of the past few days had strengthened him, and he was confident that he could face whatever came next with calmness, patience, and understanding. The following morning, Ravi woke up feeling calm. The past days had been stressful, but his home finally felt normal again. As he looked around the living room, everything appeared in order. Yet deep down, he had a quiet sense that the situation with Karen and her son, Daniel, might not be completely over. Even though he had addressed the boundaries clearly, he knew that small surprises could appear when least expected. After breakfast, Ravi decided to check around the house carefully. He wanted to make sure nothing had been left behind during Daniel's stay. He walked through each room, opening closets and cabinets, inspecting every corner. Most of the house was clean and organized, but as he approached his study room, something caught his eye. On his desk, near the window, was a small notebook. Ravi had never seen it before. Curious, he picked it up. The notebook was filled with neat handwriting, and as he flipped through the pages, he realized it belonged to Daniel. The boy had apparently written down thoughts, sketches, and ideas while staying in Ravi's house. Ravi was surprised. It was clear that Daniel had spent a lot of time thinking and creating while there. Ravi sat down and began to read. The notebook contained drawings of the neighborhood, ideas for school projects, and even reflections on personal experiences. One page caught Ravi's attention. Daniel had written about feeling lonely at school and how being able to stay in Ravi's house, even for a short time, had given him a sense of security and inspiration. Ravi felt a mix of emotions. He had been upset initially about the intrusion, but now he saw that Daniel had used the opportunity in a positive way. The boy had respected the space in his own way, even if he had not asked permission first. Ravi realized that while the situation had been stressful, it had also allowed Daniel to grow and learn. Later that afternoon, Ravi decided to visit Karen's house again. He wanted to discuss the notebook and Daniel's time in his home. Maybe there was a way to turn the situation into a positive story for the neighborhood. When he arrived, Karen greeted him cautiously, holding a cup of tea. "Ravi, hello," she said. "Is everything all right?" Ravi smiled. "Yes, Karen. I wanted to talk to you about Daniel and the notebook he left behind in my study. I read it, and I was surprised by how thoughtful he has been. He clearly used his time in my house to reflect and create. I wanted to share this with you." Karen looked relieved. "Oh, I'm glad to hear that. He has been struggling a little, and I hoped he could find a safe space to express himself. I didn't know he would write so much or think so deeply." Ravi nodded. "He has potential, and his writing shows maturity beyond his years. While it was wrong for him to stay without permission, I can see that he learned a lot from the experience. Perhaps we can guide him to continue using his creativity in positive ways without crossing boundaries." Karen's eyes softened. "Yes, I will talk to him. I am proud of him for his reflection, but I also need to teach him the importance of asking permission. This is a good learning opportunity for both of us." Ravi smiled. "Exactly. We can focus on growth and understanding. This way, the neighborhood can see that even mistakes can lead to positive results." As he walked back home, Ravi felt encouraged. He had turned a stressful situation into a chance to help a young person learn and grow. It reminded him that patience, calmness, and reflection could transform challenges into meaningful lessons. Over the next few days, Ravi noticed subtle changes in the neighborhood. Neighbors who had been whispering about the incident now smiled at him when he passed. Some came over to ask about Daniel and Karen, showing interest in the positive outcome rather than the drama. Ravi realized that how he handled the situation had influenced the perception of others. Calm and respectful communication had earned him respect. One afternoon, while Ravi was tending his garden, Daniel appeared at the gate. The boy carried a small folder filled with sketches and writings. "Hello, Mr. Ravi," he said politely. "I wanted to show you what I made after staying at your house. I tried to create something meaningful." Ravi invited him in. Daniel laid out the sketches and writings on the dining table. They included illustrations of the neighborhood, reflections about friendship, and even plans for school projects. Ravi was impressed by the thought and care Daniel had put into his work. "This is wonderful, Daniel," Ravi said kindly. "I can see you put a lot of effort and thought into these. It's great to see how you turned your experience into something creative." Daniel smiled, relieved by Ravi's approval. "Thank you, sir. I wanted to show you that I learned from everything. I understand now that respecting someone's home is very important, and I will never forget it." Ravi nodded. "I appreciate that. Learning from experiences is what helps us grow. Keep working on your projects and ideas. Your creativity is valuable, and I'm glad you are using it positively." Later that evening, Ravi reflected on how much the situation had changed. What had begun as a stressful invasion had turned into an opportunity for understanding, learning, and growth. Karen and Daniel had learned important lessons, and he had helped guide them with patience and respect. That night, as Ravi prepared for bed, he felt a sense of satisfaction and calm. The house was once again peaceful, and the neighborhood had returned to its quiet rhythm. More importantly, the relationships he had strengthened through communication and patience had brought a sense of unity and understanding to the community. Ravi realized that challenges often appear unexpectedly, even in quiet neighborhoods. People may act without thinking, or misunderstandings may happen, but how one responds determines the outcome. By addressing the issue calmly, setting clear boundaries, and offering guidance, he had turned a stressful situation into a positive experience for everyone involved. The next morning, Ravi noticed Karen and Daniel working together in their garden. Daniel waved shyly and Ravi waved back. It was clear that the lessons of respect, patience, and communication had been understood. The neighborhood felt harmonious again, and Ravi knew that small acts of understanding could create lasting change. As Ravi sipped his morning tea, he thought about the journey of the past week. It had been unexpected, challenging, and stressful, yet it had also been rewarding. He had learned that calmness, patience, and communication could transform conflict into growth. He had helped guide a young person toward responsibility, and he had reinforced respect for his home and boundaries. Ravi smiled. Life in the neighborhood would continue to have surprises, but he felt ready. The lessons of the past week had strengthened him, and he was confident in his ability to handle whatever came next. The house was his sanctuary once more, and he felt gratitude for the peaceful environment he had nurtured. That evening, Ravi sat on his porch, watching the sunset. The orange and pink sky reflected the warmth of the neighborhood, where people respected each other and learned from mistakes. He felt content knowing that his home, his space, and the community were all aligned with respect, patience, and understanding. Ravi knew that Karen and Daniel had learned their lessons, and that even small misunderstandings could lead to growth if handled with care. He took a deep breath, feeling the calm breeze, and thought about the future. Whatever surprises came next, he would meet them with clarity, patience, and a focus on positive outcomes. The following week, Ravi felt a renewed sense of calm in his home. The chaos from Karen and her son Daniel had become a memory, replaced by lessons learned and new respect for boundaries. His house was tidy, organized, and once again a sanctuary where he could relax without worry. Yet he also realized that the situation had created a ripple effect in the neighborhood. One afternoon, Ravi decided to walk through the community to check on the neighbors and enjoy the fresh air. Children played near the sidewalks and neighbors waved politely. The whispers that had circulated after the incident were gone. People seemed to have shifted their attention to more positive matters. The calm atmosphere reminded Ravi that time and understanding could heal awkward situations. As he strolled down the street, he saw Daniel sitting on a small bench near the park, sketchbook in hand. The boy waved shyly when he noticed Ravi. Ravi smiled and walked over. "Hello, Daniel." Ravi greeted warmly. "How are your projects coming along?" Daniel smiled brightly. "Hello, Mr. Ravi. They are going well. I've been drawing and writing every day since that week in your house." "I'm learning a lot." Ravi nodded with approval. "I'm glad to hear that. Keep up the good work. Your creativity is impressive, and it's wonderful to see how much you are learning." Daniel's eyes lit up. "Thank you. I wanted to show you that I remembered your advice. I always ask permission now and respect other people's spaces. I don't want to make the same mistake again." Ravi placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "That is exactly what matters, Daniel. Learning from experiences and making better choices is important. I'm proud of you for understanding that." As Ravi continued his walk, he noticed Karen tending her garden in front of her house. She waved, and Ravi waved back. The tension that had existed before had completely dissipated. Karen had become more thoughtful and careful, aware of the importance of asking permission and respecting boundaries. Later that afternoon, Ravi decided to host a small gathering in his backyard. He wanted to build positive relationships with his neighbors and create a sense of community. He sent invitations to a few families, including Karen and Daniel, and prepared light refreshments. When the neighbors arrived, Ravi greeted each of them warmly. The atmosphere was relaxed and cheerful. Children played together on the lawn, while adults shared conversations and laughter. Karen and Daniel arrived together, and Ravi welcomed them politely. "Thank you for inviting us, Ravi," Karen said sincerely. "We appreciate the gesture. It's good to see everyone coming together." Ravi nodded. "I wanted to show that even after misunderstandings, we can focus on community, respect, and learning. Everyone makes mistakes, but it's how we respond that matters." Daniel smiled shyly. "I'm glad I can be part of this, Mr. Ravi. I've learned a lot, and I want to be respectful and helpful." As the gathering continued, Ravi observed the positive changes in the neighborhood. Neighbors were chatting, sharing stories, and laughing together. The previous tension caused by rumors and misunderstandings had been replaced by genuine connection and understanding. The incident with Karen and Daniel had become a learning story that everyone could appreciate without judgment. At one point, Ravi took a moment to speak to the group. "I want to thank everyone for coming today. Life in a community can be challenging sometimes. Misunderstandings may happen and mistakes can occur. What matters is how we handle them. By respecting each other, communicating clearly, and showing patience, we can create a positive environment for everyone. The neighbors nodded in agreement. Some smiled while others expressed appreciation for Ravi's thoughtful words. Karen spoke up as well. Ravi is right. We all need to learn from our experiences and support each other. Daniel and I have learned that boundaries and respect are very important. I hope we can all continue to grow together as a community. Daniel beamed with pride. I promise to remember your advice, Mr. Ravi. I want to be a good neighbor and a responsible person. Ravi smiled. I believe you will, Daniel. You've shown that learning and growth are possible even from mistakes. The gathering continued with laughter, games, and shared stories. Ravi felt a deep sense of satisfaction as he watched neighbors connect and build trust. The incident that had started with tension and stress had transformed into a positive experience that strengthened the community. As the sun began to set, Ravi reflected on the past few weeks. He had faced a challenging situation with Karen and Daniel, navigated misunderstandings, and helped guide them toward understanding and respect. Along the way, he had reinforced his own boundaries and shown that patience and communication could turn a difficult experience into a meaningful lesson. Karen approached him quietly as the neighbors began to leave. Ravi, I want to thank you again. Your guidance helped both Daniel and me see things differently. I will make sure he continues to respect boundaries and communicate better. I appreciate your patience, Ravi nodded. You've done well, Karen. Understanding mistakes and learning from them is important. The way you and Daniel handled this afterward shows maturity. I hope the neighborhood can continue to grow stronger from this experience. Karen smiled. Yes, I agree. Thank you for helping us understand. We have learned a lot. After the gathering, Ravi walked back to his house feeling a sense of peace. His home was once again a sanctuary, and the neighborhood had regained its harmony. He realized that even small misunderstandings could have big effects. But with patience, communication, and respect, they could be turned into opportunities for learning and growth. That night, Ravi sat on his porch with a cup of tea, watching the stars appear in the clear sky. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful, and full of life. Children's laughter had faded into the evening calm, and neighbors had returned to their homes feeling a sense of connection and understanding. Ravi felt proud that he had helped guide this positive outcome. As he reflected on the past events, Ravi understood a simple truth. Conflict is not always negative. When handled with patience, respect, and communication, even challenging situations can lead to growth, stronger relationships, and community harmony. The incident with Karen and her son had been unexpected, stressful, and surprising, yet it had resulted in lessons for everyone involved. Daniel had learned about responsibility and respect. Karen had learned about boundaries and communication, and Ravi had reinforced his home as a place of safety and understanding. Ravi took a deep breath, feeling the gentle breeze on his face. He knew that life in the neighborhood would continue, with new experiences, challenges, and surprises. But he also knew that he had the skills, patience, and clarity to handle whatever came next. For the first time in weeks, Ravi felt completely at peace. His home was his sanctuary, the neighborhood was harmonious, and the lessons learned had created stronger connections between neighbors. The calm and trust that had returned felt satisfying and lasting. As Ravi went inside to prepare for bed, he felt a quiet sense of gratitude. He was grateful for his home, for the chance to guide and help Daniel, and for the opportunity to foster understanding and respect in the neighborhood. Life had a way of presenting challenges, but it also had a way of turning them into valuable experiences if handled with patience and care. Ravi turned off the lights and climbed into bed, feeling content. He knew that tomorrow might bring new experiences, but he was ready to face them with calmness, clarity, and kindness. The home that had been disrupted was now stronger. The relationships that had been tested were now deeper, and the neighborhood that had been tense was now peaceful and connected. With a final glance at the quiet street outside his window, Ravi closed his eyes. The stars above shone brightly, reflecting the harmony and understanding that now filled his home and community. The journey from chaos to calm had been complete, and Ravi knew that patience, communication, and respect had created a lasting change that would benefit everyone in the neighborhood.